Hello, my name is Andrew Marione, and today I'm going to show off the Movie app, an application that I built using Xcode. The motivation behind this app is that my in-laws recently acquired a very large DVD collection when they moved into a new house with over 1,000 DVDs. And they were looking for a way that they could organize it, keep track of what movies they've watched and haven't watched, and find movies that they already own and that they might want to watch. The app opens with this My Collection tab, which contains all of the movies that the users added to their collection. These movies are pulled from an online API. In this case, we're using a mock API, but the data here is actually pulled from IMDb or OMDB, which is an open source version of the database. So the user is able to swipe through all of the movies in their collection and see what movies they have. The call to the API to get the data for the movies is made in the tab bar controller, which leads into each of the 3 views in the app. The data is pulled from this mock API using this film service method. And then to add movies to the collection, the user will click on this button in the top right corner. This will pull up a card where the user is able to put in the name of a movie that they'd like to add, such as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And when they press add to the collection, this movie will be added to the collection. The data will be pulled from the online API. Again, here we're using a mock API, but this would use the title to find the movie and add it to the collection. But here we'll actually add it to the collection. So now we want to find this movie in our collection. So the user can use the search films feature, which allows them to browse through their catalog. The search bar here is able to look at multiple fields for the movie object to find the movie you're looking for. You can search by the title of the movie, the actors, the name of the actors, the name of the director, or the genre of the movie to find the result you're looking for. So let's find Guardians of the Galaxy. We search by name, it shows up pretty quickly. But we can also look for the director, James Gunn. We can also look for one of the lead actors, like Zoe Saldana. Or we can try and find it based on the genre. So that's a pretty funny movie. Maybe it's comedy. Action. Yeah, action. Okay, great. So here we can find the movie. If we click on an individual movie, we're taken to a detailed view that contains a lot more information about the movie and allows us to interact with the record as the user a little bit more. So here we can see the poster for the movie. We can see the title of the movie. Title of the movie. We can give a rating, add to watch list. I'll come back to these features in a second. We can see the plot of the movie. It's a short description. The year, the genre, the director, and the cast. These are mostly the searchable fields. We come back up here. We're also able to give the movie an individual rating from 1 to 5 stars. If the user loved the movie, they can give 5 stars and rate it. If they thought that it was nowhere near as good as the original, they can give it 2 stars, that's kind of harsh, maybe 3 stars, and rate it. And then this rating will perpetuate whenever the user looks at this movie record. So they can keep track of the movies they liked and didn't like. If the user's not seen the movie before and is interested, or perhaps they've seen it before and really loved the movie, they can always add it to their watch list by clicking add to watch list as well. The rating feature works based on a UI stack view that contains 5 star-shaped buttons, which is embedded in another stack view that contains the submission button. This UI stack view controller here, which is inspired, this was inspired by this YouTube video. And what we do here is essentially we start with, we assign each of the view buttons within the subview a star tag, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we essentially, at the beginning, loop through each one and check to see what the film's rating, which is an attribute of the film object is. And if the button is greater than it, we set it to empty. And if it's less than it, then we set that one to full. And then down here, we have another function that whenever a button is pressed, it resets the star rating to whatever the star tag of that button is, and then again cycles through and sets the rating and fills in stars that are less than or equal to that rating. Back to our collection, I can go out the search view. The one other thing we can do in this view is that we can mark that we've watched specific movies. This is done with a gesture. If the user swipes on an individual cell to the left, they can indicate that they've watched the movie. If they didn't mean to, they can always go back. They can either do it by clicking the button or by swiping. So let's say that we watched this movie, but we'd really like to watch it again. So we're going to add it to the watch list and give it 5 stars because it was awesome. However, that's the name. So the next thing we can do is we can go actually look at our watch list. The watch list is another view where the user can see all the movies that they've chosen to add to their watch list. Much like the collection, they can browse through it. They can click on individual movies to see the same detail view where they can still see the rating, and then the option to remove the movie from their watch list. As you'll note, you can have movies that you've already seen on your watch list. So this one already has the check mark. But if we're in this view and we want to indicate that we watched it from the watch list and we don't want to see it anymore, or we don't want it on this list anymore, we can swipe to the right and show it as watched. Next time we look at the watch list, this movie will now be removed, although we're not going to be removing the check mark. But our watch list is pretty empty, and this movie collection is not particularly large. But as I mentioned, the target user has over 1,000 movies. So how are we possibly going to sift through that to find them? Well, for that, we've put together the recommendations tab down here. And this is a feature that helps the user find new movies from their collection that they haven't seen before, they haven't watched, and aren't on their watch list, and lets them browse through it and see if there's maybe something they want to watch. So the user uses this feature by swiping on the movie card in the center of the screen. So this card will contain just a little bit of information: the picture, the movie poster, the title of the movie, and then also the genre of the movie. And by either swiping to the right or to the left, the user can indicate whether or not they want to add the movie to the watch list. So if we swipe to the right, the movie gets added to the watch list. And if we swipe to the left, the movie does not get added to the watch list. So let's add a couple movies. There we go. This is a little slow. I'm using a virtual Mac, so it's not exactly the fastest, unfortunately. The Tinder-like swipe feature was inspired by a video series I found from Mike Moinkins on YouTube, which is linked in the text. This pretty much just contains a single view with an image view and 2 labels that is centered in this view. And we've added an gesture recognizer that will recognize when it has been moved around. An IB action function, which will recognize whenever the gesture has been made to drag the object. The movies that are recommended are chosen currently at random. We select 5 movies that have not been watched, are not currently part of the watch list, are not on the watch list, and are not currently part of the recommendations list. The current film is then popped from this list, and the card is updated. The swipe view is that card I mentioned before, is the card that's in the center of the view. We use this point variable to keep track of how far we've moved the card. We then calculate the current position of the card. If the card moves past a certain point, 75 points either to the left or to the right of center, we do a quick animation that pushes it off screen and we make it invisible. We then run this function, reset swipe view. On reset swipe view, we first check to see if we've run out of movies. If so, we send our enjoy and time to watch some movies message. If not, we pop the next film and we update the card and animate the card back to the starting position. If we swipe to the right, we simply add to the watch list by updating the record entry in the collection to state that it's part of the watch list. This is pretty much the same way that the button works on the detail view controller. Once the user has swiped through all of the recommendations, they'll get this message notifying them that it's time to watch some movies. If they are really want to keep swiping and maybe they've got a little bit of addiction to our application, they can go check out their watch list or any other tab. And the next time they come back, there'll be a fresh set of movies for them to swipe through.